Alrighty, welcome back everybody to the 7th week of our Tech Bytes programs here at the Schaumburg Library, where we are doing our summer Tech Bytes programs, going over, diving more deeper into the programming language of JavaScript and the cool things which we can do with that. We have reached the 7th week and 7th class of our web project development program, where we are continuing every week to continue to work on a new project and building out our JavaScript skills even further. As always, it's great to see a great number of people coming out here today, which is always appreciated. Keep on spreading the word as we are approaching the end of our Tech Bytes summer programs here at the Schaumburg Library. So without any further ado, let's get on started. You guys know who we are. My name is Ryan Siddiqui. Will be an incoming freshman at the University of Illinois Chicago, majoring in computer science. Graduated from Conan High School, where some of you guys will be going in a couple of weeks. Crazy to think how fast time has flown by over the summer. To the left, there are some pictures from a vacation I took over the summer. Went to some cool countries, got to experience a lot of different cultures, from Greece, Turkey to Pakistan as well. Some pictures right here. This picture right here is in front of a hot air balloon in Istanbul, Turkey. You're able to go on a hot air balloon like 5 in the morning. It was a pretty cool ride. Some more pictures from Turkey. This is from Pakistan. Turkey right here. Greece, an island called Santorini right there. And this is a picture from recently, about a couple of days ago, being able to meet some players from the Bears. This is what I have been up to this summer.
All right, and I'm Lupti. I can't turn my camera on today. Sorry about that, but just like Rayon, I graduated and in 2 weeks, I'll be moving out to UIUC. Excited and nervous at the same time, but time goes by and we just got to go by with it. Over the past summer, as I shared with you guys, I went on a trip called the Hacker Zephyr, and it was hosted by an organization called Hack Club. It's an international organization that you guys can join when you do become high schoolers, or you can try to join like when you're in middle school. You may or may not be accepted, but it's an amazing community of like just coders, students like us, and yeah.
That's still so cool that you met Tom Preston Warner.
Yeah, the founder.
Like, that is so cool.
Hey, Lobney.
Yeah.
How many more days are we gonna be flexing with a Falcon 9?
Oh man, they did not tell us that.
All right, pretty cool summers we've been having. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying the summer, and summer, crazy to think, is coming to an end soon. So make the most of these last couple of days, and we'll be making the most with our Tech Bytes programs as well. And for today, guys, we're going to be getting started with our usual this or that, talking about which one you prefer, doing a quick recap on our project and what we have been covering over the past couple of weeks, and then continue to work, finding our way till the end as we approach the end of Tech Bytes next week as well. So without any further ado, first thing first, we got to get started off with our this or that.
All right, but before we do that, just like Rayan said, we need the schedule for the rest of Tech Bytes is just this week and next week. So the week of the 1st and the 8th, and that is it. So yeah, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. There will be no video gaming hour on Thursday, sadly, but we'll be ending with web project development next week, and that'll be the end of the summer Tech Bytes program.
All right, and now going off to our this or that. So
all right, yeah, go ahead.
All right. So this week, this or that, guys, is going to be one. Let's see how divided we are. Would we rather prefer using a mobile device like a smartphone, like an iPhone or a Samsung phone, like a Galaxy, or on a daily use, would we rather prefer using a tablet, like an iPad, a Samsung tablet?
I would use a tablet.
And most importantly, why? Savani, she said a tablet. Why?
It's more bigger. Like if you just stare at a phone for too long, like your eyes might hurt. And also, I think there's more like cool apps. Like if you just want to play a game or something, like iPad is ideal. I mean, like, phone is for mostly calls. You can't do most calls with iPad, but it's like more bigger. That's why I like it.
Tejas saying tablet because there's more memory. Okay, well,
Yeah.
Well, it's crazy, but now phones are competing with tablets too. I know, like the latest iPhone, you can get up to a terabyte of storage or 512 gigabytes on a smartphone.
Ryan, which one would you prefer?
I think on a daily use, I would go with a mobile phone, like an iPhone or a Samsung, just because I've been gaming less nowadays, and just with the phone, it's much easier to take calls or browse the internet, find something really quickly. But if I'm like watching a show or like a long flight, something like that, I would definitely prefer a tablet.
I would pick a phone because it's like it can fit in your pocket, so you can take it around more easily wherever you go.
Yep.
Plus, there's the ability to make phone calls without Wi-Fi for phones, and
That is
it's really interesting how, like, if we would have asked this same question about like 5 to 7 years ago, almost every one of us would say like phone, because it had more capabilities, and like the idea of SMS messages and phone calls was way bigger than what we use today, like Instagram messages, iMessages, or actually no, that was still on, but like WhatsApp, all of that stuff.
Wait, Lobby, does Ryan know what we edited in like the web project game?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
did you like the CSS part?
The what part, Avanish?
Like the
CSS.
design part we did?
You're turned off. Repeat that.
Like the design part.
The
Oh
CSS.
yeah.
Wait,
Yes.
are you talking new iPads?
Yeah, new
or-
iPads. Yep. Like an iPad Pro, iPad Air.
The M1 iPad?
The M1 iPad is insane. That is, but competing with the MacBook.
If you're talking about the M1 iPad, then yeah. iPad.
Well, let's see if the iPhone 13 has like an M1 chip too. Now that would totally revolutionize.
I don't think they have enough space in there for like the stuff to incorporate like the M1 chip in there.
Wait, what's an M1?
That's like the new
Yeah,
chip
that's like
that
the new
Apple came
chip
out with.
for,
That's the one that
Apple.
all the MacBooks have, and now they're putting it into the iPad, like the brand new like iPad Pro. So basically, that's gonna make it's gonna make the iPad as powerful as a MacBook.
Oh, okay.
Look at that web design. Look at that. You scroll down the laptop. Look at that. It's so cool. That is
Yeah.
cool. Let me see. I'll probably use advertising your M1 chip somewhere.
Ryan, I opened the fiddle thing and there's only start game option 1 and option 2.
We'll get to that real quick and we'll talk about our game. But that's the M1 chip is the reason why if you go to buy the new MacBook, it's absurd. $2,600, $2,200 for a laptop because of that M1 chip. So Apple has been hiking up their prices quite a bit. All right, and something cool also to note is that some tablets, Apple does offer their iPads to have the cellular option. So like you can literally put a SIM card into an iPad, and then you could receive calls. You could use it outside when you don't have access to Wi-Fi. So something else to also note. So overall, it looks like we're somewhat even. People saying tablets, some smartphone. But it's great to see. All right.
Sorry, I was on mute. But here is a brief summary, because of that 2-week break that we had, of what we were making for web project development. We started the adventure game way back in June, and we have been using HTML and CSS for that last week. We had a lot of fun. And yeah, and then JavaScript, of course, for all of the logic. Again, just to review, HTML is for, we've used that. we've used HTML for buttons, and as well as the paragraph tag. CSS, we did a lot of styling, and we also stole a bunch of code from the internet. Something that is completely viable that like a lot of programmers do, but only for CSS. It's only good if you use the internet for CSS, because yeah, styling is pretty complicated if you don't know like everything about it. And then finally, JavaScript, we have been handling the logics to when we do click the button, what to do, if it's the first scenario, second scenario, third scenario, so on. And then finally, we are going to add in multiple adventure game. That kind of leads to what we're going to do today.
Exactly. So a lot of you covered it right there. But last week, you guys were involved with you guys did the storyline and then added more CSS to our game. So we'll take a look at how the game looks like. That they're redesigned the UI, checking it out how that looks. And a lot of you are saying, CSS, something which we heavily depend on the internet. I'm sure that you guys probably use something like W3 Schools or something of that sort to just copy and paste blocks of code and make our buttons, everything look nice. So something which we're going to get used to doing when we're working with JavaScript and making websites.
I think we used the Google fonts as well to change the font. But yeah, this week's goal, as I was just saying on the slide before, last week's goal was to finish the storyline, because we kind of left that off to add some of the CSS in the middle, just to leave July on a good note, on a fun note. But today, today we'll be finishing the storyline. And one thing that we're gonna add to finish it is we will add a player health. That would be cool to watch.
Exactly. All right. So without any further ado, guys, let's make our way to our coding website of JS Fiddle. Earlier today, I did drop the link to our Fiddle if you guys want to hop on and take a look at the same time. But in the meantime, I'll be pulling up the Fiddle as well. So make our way over there.
Ryan, is this how it looks like? Wait.
Does it not have the CSS?
Yeah, that's what I'm. Yeah, CSS.
Oh, wait. Let me share the code that I finished off. Give me a second.
Okay, sure. CSS is still empty. Might be. Do you have you set it as base? Do you still have that thing with JS Fiddle? Log you on your end. Can you see the CSS? Well, if not, no worries. We can finish off next week with the CSS and just make sure that we have the project looking all nice. So
Sorry, I was on mute. I was saying something. But let's just go off on finishing the storyline. I'll see where the CSS went, because I did paste in like the code that we finished off on in July. I will put that on Google Classroom.
that's fine. Yeah, we can finish off next week with that. So no worries.
Right.
So for today, guys, I will drop the link to our shared code if you guys want to hop on and code along with me, or if you guys would like, if you have your own personal copies you've been working on, pull that up and we'll get started shortly. So as we're making our way over to our coding website, just a quick recap, we got the HTML up here, which is handling all the structure of our website. The CSS, remember what you guys worked on last time we were here, making the project look nice, the buttons, the fonts, all that good stuff. And then the JavaScript, which is the brains of the code, handling all the logic we have with functions, conditionals, arrays, all of that good stuff as well. And as we're getting on, just a quick recap, in our HTML, we have all of our buttons where we're starting the game.
Yeah, I think
Options we
JS
have.
Fiddle is a really nice thing for like JS Fiddle or CodePen or WebMaker are the best 3 for like a 1-page like project. But if you're going for like more than 1 page, then you should probably go for like Replit or Glitch.
Yeah, if you're talking about multiple, then we should use an IDE like WebStorm or like an application, which makes it much easier. So that's their HTML, and then in our JavaScript we have arrays where we are storing the options the user has. Since it is an adventure game, depends on what option the user selects, then a different scenario is presented with. So if I hit run, we currently have a couple of options set up. So if I hit start game, option to visit a different planet, which planet do we choose? We'll go to Saturn. We're on our way and we spot different types of life. Do we interact with the aliens or keep going? If I hit keep going, looks like we have stopped there. So we'll finish off with that option. And then we also have the option of going to Mars on our way.
Ours is different. Like we changed like the CSS part. Did you did you see like the CSS part we did? It's not like the background is like black now.
Yeah, Avnish, I think it's I don't know, something happened in the code that like it probably like is another JS Fiddle. I can't access it right now. It'll take me like some time to find it in like my bunch of fiddles, but we will add that in. I'll add in all the CSS later on. So just imagine that all the CSS is there, that it looks black, but it doesn't. I know.
Yeah, I saw last week in the video that you guys, had all the CSS. So that no worries, we'll get that updated to finish off with that next week. So for now, just imagine that it's there. All right. So
Hey, Ryan, what's going on with your screen? Do you have automatic clicks on?
Automatic clicks.
Yeah, what's with the circles?
Oh, wait, so whatever my cursor, if I click
Uh,
on JS Fiddle, it's gonna show. Yeah. Yep. Alrighty. So for this week, what we're gonna do is finish off with one last scenario for each option we have, and then start adding a player health, which is gonna change and fluctuate throughout our project. So upon looking on this, it looks like that we have to add another option in our second function, the options 2. So we currently have, so if I hit run, start game, we have the option to go to a different planet, we'll go to Saturn. And then if we interact with the aliens, then we got a different option coming out. But if we don't, we have to add the last scenario, what happens when we keep on going. So what we're gonna do is do what we did for our first option function. We're gonna have to add a different situation, which we're gonna look for. In order to do that, we're gonna utilize our concept of conditionals. So what we're gonna do instead now is say, if the times we have clicked our button is now equal to 2, that's telling us that we have to present the next scenario. So else if our counter 2, which is keeping track, so I'll comment right there, this is keeping track of the amount of times we have clicked the second option button. So if the value of our counter 2 variable is equal to 2, that means that we have to present the second and last scenario right here. So what we can do now is create a new scenario. So what we're doing is creating a scenario which happens when we click keep going. So what do we think should happen? If we keep on going and we ignore the other signs of life, what should happen to us?
Well, I think that if we interact with the aliens, they will they'll be friends with us or something like that. Like a trades partner or something like that. And then if we keep on going, it's like something on Earth, a meteorite is falling and you just ignore it, something like that.
Okay, all right. So then we'll do, we'll say there's a meteor shower happening in the new path you took. You end up crash landing at a different planet. So we'll say you end up crash landing at Neptune. All right, and now in this second scenario, since we're bringing us to an end, what we can probably do is add one more scenario. I think that would be a nice way to end because crash landing at Neptune doesn't seem like a proper ending. So what we'll do is add one more scenario each, and then we'll finish off with the player health. So what I'm going to do now is go to our arrays, which we got set up. And so we got the option of stopping elsewhere, fixing our ship, making friends. All right, so what I'm going to do is add the option of now. So firstly, how about we call our function? We'll do display information 2 so that we can show our new scenario. Remember, we're calling this function, passing in the parameter so that we can show our scenario. Hit run. Let's see if that works. So we'll start game Saturn. If we keep going, there we go. We can see that there's a meteor shower happening in the new path we took. You end up crash landing at Neptune.
Wait, can you show the part you just coded again?
Yep, so just calling our function of display information 2 and then passing in the scenario as a parameter so that we can display it. All right, looks like we're showing keep going or fight. Let's see what that's at. Start game Saturn. Keep going. So we're gonna have to add some more options in our second options array. So we'll say on top of fighting, what else can you do? You can on Neptune, how about you explore the new planet? Or you can set up home base. Start setting up, if you any of you guys have watched the movie The Martian with Matt Damon, start setting up his home base, setting up the tents, starting to find out how we can start cooking food, all that stuff. So now if we start game Saturn and we keep on going, we're gonna have to.
I think that it's the option that we added the week before last week.
Oh, you guys already added it. Wait, 2. So 2, 4, 6. Oh, okay, that's right. Okay, so I guess we'll keep fight, and what we'll have to do. What if we try anchor? Oh, count 1. Hold up. So if counter 2 is at 2, we're looking at the second index. So 0, 1, 2. So what we'll do here is increment counter 2 by 1. Now if we go to Saturn, keep going, we have fight or explore the new planet. So if we increment this by 2, just
and I might have put it in like the array above. So first options, make friends. That's the second option.
Okay. So okay.
Yeah.
All right, so that's fine. We'll finish off with first options then in the first function. So for now, okay, I guess this is the end. Let's give it like 1 minute, guys. So 4.
Can you show var second options and var first options?
Yep, right here. All the first options, second options we got. All right, so what we're gonna have to do now is it's getting a bit complicated because of the way we're keeping track of our numbering system. So make sure that you guys add this line of code in order to increment our counter by 2 so that we can display the proper options to the user of what happens when they crash land on Neptune. And then what's going to happen is that if the user ends up clicking, say we go to start game, they go Saturn, you're on your way to a location. If you interact with the aliens, then we're seeing a different option popping up. So what we're going to do is we have to make sure that the value of counter 1 and counter 2 are the same so that the proper scenario is showing up. So if the user ends up clicking, if they want to interact with the aliens, then we have to make sure that the value of counter 1, I mean, is equal to 2. So that way, if the value of counter 1 is 2, then this scenario shows up, which aligns with our storyline more perfectly. So now if we hit run, hit start game, if we go to Saturn, interact with the aliens. Maybe it was already right. Give me 1 second, guys. It has been a long time to take a look at this. Okay, so we're going to set counter 1 equal to 1 because we're incrementing our value of our variable by 1 every time. So this line of code, anybody remind us what does this do? The counter 1 plus plus, it's a shortcut method to do what? Anybody remember? So remember, counter 1 plus plus, it's the same thing as me writing out counter 1 equals counter 1 plus 1. So what it's doing, it's adding a value of 1 to whatever the existing value is. So if counter 1 is at 0, what's the value going to be after this line of code is run?
1.
Exactly, and so on and so forth, right? So we keep on incrementing. So what we're doing right here is making sure that the value of counter 1 is equal to whatever part of the storyline we're at. So now this way, if I hit the option of interacting with the aliens, we'll see the correct scenario popping up. So that way we're aligned perfectly with the storyline. So now if I hit start game, go to Saturn, if I interact with the aliens, there we go. We see the option of we're deciding to have some lunch. Someone approaches us. Do we want to make friends with that person? And then we can make friends with them, or we can fix our ship, looks like, and we'll have to do the same thing we did with our second options. So what I'm going to do right here is set the value of our counter 1 equal to, so we're going to increment this by, so what are we at? Indexes, right? So we got 0, 1, 2, 3. So at this part of the game, we're looking at the index of 2. So I'm going to increment the value of our counter 1 by 1 so we can display the next option. So we're going to say, do we want to make friends with them, or do we make a run for your ship and try to get out of there? Maybe the aliens do not have good intentions. So now if we hit run, start game, Saturn, if you want to keep going, we can keep going. We go to Neptune, that's the right option. Hit start game, go to Saturn, spot different types of life, decide to have some lunch. We can, so let's take a look right here. So we're incrementing by 1. Okay, so we're going to increment the counter 1 by 2, and that should, I believe, show us the correct scenario. Not first option. The problem we're currently having is the right options are not popping up. So if we got fixed ship or make friends, and we should be seeing make friends or make a run for your ship. So let's take a look why that is happening. Oh, it's because we're incrementing our value. So now if I hit run, Saturn, interact, there we go. Okay, so the problem was, this is again, an important thing to note is that the order of our code does matter. I was placing this line of code after we were calling our function called display information. And the reason why we weren't seeing the correct options being displayed in response to our scenario was because display information, it relies on the value of our counter 1. The problem was that I was changing the value of counter 1 after the function was called, not before. So to make sure that we have the right options being displayed, we have to change the value beforehand in order to make sure that we are seeing the correct options. So right here, we're being presented with more options now. We can make friends or make a run for our ship, or we end up crash landing at Neptune. And the other option is we can keep on exploring the planet or setting up home base. Now, as you're probably noticing is that we can keep on adding many more options and many more scenarios in this adventure game. There's not a defined ending which has to come about. It truly depends on what type of path we end up taking. And depending on that path, we're going to keep on adding more and more conditionals to adjust and make sure that all of our scenarios have a proper ending. So that's something which we can explore. We can keep on adding more conditionals and say, if you click this, then this happens. So if we go to start game, go to Saturn, if we interact with the aliens, we make friends, make a run for our ship, different options will keep on happening, right? So what I'm going to do now is, instead of keep on adding more and more scenarios, take an end with that, and that could be the end of our storyline. If you guys want, you can keep on adding more scenarios to whatever your imagination wants. But in the meantime, I'm going to add a option, a different part of our game, which is going to keep track of our players' health as we go along. So as all these things are happening, it would be cool to see what our players' health is, and maybe some events happen which end up deteriorating their health. And if they're below a certain level, then the game ends, something of that sort. So what I'm going to do is create a global variable called player health. Initially, this will be equal to a perfect 100 HP. They got 100 health. And in our game setup, we should probably show the user how much health they have, right? So what I'm going to do is go to our HTML and create another paragraph tag, which is going to hold the user's health. So I'm going to do P. We got a paragraph tag right there. I can even write something. We'll see it right there. But instead of just writing random letters, I'm going to give this paragraph tag an ID. Remember, whenever we give something in the HTML an ID, that allows us to manipulate and change it and access it through our JavaScript. So I'm going to give the ID to be player health. And now I'm going to go on over to our game setup function, which is happening before the game even starts. And then write that long line of code to show the player's health. So I'm going to document.get, capital E element, capital V by, capital ID, opening close parentheses. The ID which we're referring to is called player health. And setting the dot inner HTML equal to the player's health. So health, and then add the player health variable. So this was a lot of code I just wrote.
So what you guys just wrote, so the player health ID you guys just created, you're changing into health plus player health. So, and health is not like defined.
Exactly right. So we are creating a paragraph tag. Remember, this paragraph tag in the HTML, it's going to hold whatever we write with our JavaScript. Now, in our JavaScript, we're telling the computer that, hey, get the reference to the player health tag, and then we're going to change the text, which is going to be seen in the paragraph tag. And the text we're changing that to is the player's health. So we're saying quotation marks, just making it look nice. The health of the player is the player health. So if I hit run now, hit start game, we can see the health of the player initially, just like we have it set up right here. So the health, and then showing whatever the value of our player health variable is, which in this case, initially, it's going to be 100.
Wait, I thought it would be look like a health bar. Like,
so a health bar would be pretty cool. That's something actually which we can do next week.
You gotta do it in CSS, right?
Bing, bing, bing. Exactly, Avanish. That's something which is more styling. But yes, that's a great idea. That's actually what we'll do next week. We'll add a, it's called a progress bar for our health. once we're adding the CSS next week, and we'll add that as well. That will make our game look even nicer. So good idea.
And when like the mayor's crash, the player should lose some health.
Exactly. Yep. So now we're going to start manipulating the health of our player. So we'll go down to our options function where all the scenarios are going down. And now we'll change the health of the player. So right here in the scenario, we got on our way to the location, we're hit by an asteroid. So in that case, the player should probably lose some health, right? So what I'm going to do is say player health minus equals. Who can tell me what is this a shorthand for? What am I saying right here?
It means like you're subtracting your full health by a little bit, but I don't think you should lose health because it was the spaceship that was hit, not him, right?
That is true. That's a good point. So would you guys want to add health? Your choice.
Well, we would want to create something like a spaceship health because he wants to
I
get to the
think
location.
it technically still counts for him because like something could have happened to the person. Let's just say so. It could be he's. So technically, we should take it away from his health.
Yeah, I mean, like if you think about like a car accident, right? If you get in a car accident, there's usually some type of, hopefully not a lot, but some injury which is going to be dealt to the person driving, right? So similarly, we'll apply that concept and say you'll lose some health. Now, how much health? We won't decide that. We can use a math.random function in order to take care of a random amount of health will be taken away. So what we're going to do is say math. We've used this in the past. It's a cool functionality with JavaScript and library which we can access in order to generate a random number. So I'm going to do is say math.floor in order to make sure that we are subtracting a whole number and not some type of decimal. So math.floor will do math.random. This is the function which is going to generate a random number between 0 and 1. But we want the health which is lost to be greater than 0 or 1, right? So we'll say times 10. Now this is generating a random number between not 0 and 10, but instead 0 and 9, because this number is always exclusive. So we're always going to be inclusive of one number less. So this means that the user has the option of losing a health of none all the way to 9 health points. Now, once that happens, we have to make sure that we're showing the user what the updated status on their health is, right? So what I'm going to do is go to our display information functions and just make sure that we are displaying the health every time. So same long line of code applies. So document.get element by ID, add the reference to our player health ID, and then dot inner HTML equals the health of the player, and then adding to show the true value, which is the player health variable. Now I'm going to give you guys a minute to do that, and I'm going to copy and paste the same line of code to our display information 2 function as well.
Wait, isn't the player supposed to lose health? Then why are we adding it to player health?
We're subtracting it, remember? Right here, player health minus equals.
Yeah, but then after that line, there's like after math.random, if you go a little down.
Yeah.
Right over there. Like
Right here?
no, not that part.
Can you have me the line number? That'd be easier.
Line number, okay. So player health. After player health, there's like another like get element by ID. And after that, there was after the get element .id, you subtract in the get element .id, you subtracted the player health and then added it again.
So we're the document.get element by ID. That's just responsible for showing in our HTML and changing it up, what we're actually doing, all the math with our player health is being handled and it's only being subtracted. Now we can also go ahead and change this if we want. We can add it. So the next scenario is we decide to have lunch. How about after lunch? We usually feel better, right? Because you had food, your body has something more to generate, more energy to generate off of, right? So instead of subtracting, we'll add health here. And we can talk, what range will the number be? How many health points is the maximum which we can add?
I think like 10 or 5. 5 or 10. I think 10.
Okay. And then what's the range going to be? Since the last number is exclusive, remember, so we can add.
It's 1 to 9.
Exactly. Yep. So if you want to make it 1 to 9, since math.random does between 0 and 1, what we can do is do +1 outside. This makes sure, Paritosh, that we're doing between 1 and 9. And now we got two more scenarios left. So if we are interacting with aliens, not really sure how that's going to affect our health. Maybe aliens have some radioactive material which does not feed well into our bodies. Maybe that will subtract our health. We can do it between 0 and 15. Maybe radioactiveness is pretty bad for your body, right? And
Yeah, but
scenario,
shouldn't there be like and if there's so like on the alien planet, shouldn't there be like some kind of items on the way you can get to increase your health?
so that's a really good extension idea, but just with our time we got left, probably not going to be able to get to it because we're going to wrap up today and then with our CSS next week. But you can definitely add that, like maybe like a shop with our HTML, like on the side, you can purchase, like have some buttons. You could add like a currency with like money you get every time something happens, and then you can buy stuff. That's a pretty good idea. And then we got our last scenario right here. There's a meteor shower happening. You end up crash landing. That again, probably is going to take away from your health. Probably we'll do 10 again. Now, in order to make sure that we can offset that if you increase your health, I'm going to change this to 15 just to make sure that our health doesn't go too down. And now, if we hit run, go to start game, different options are going to happen. We will see our health changing, which it did not. Let's see what's happening. There we go. Okay, so keep going. We see a meteor shower. Our health deteriorates. Okay, if we go to Mars, our health only decreased by 3 when our spaceship ran out of fuel. And now we can see our health changing by not that much. Only 1 looks like right there. And we can keep on going. So one thing looks like what is happening is that we got to make sure that our health changes by some value. Like Paritosh was talking about earlier, we have to make sure that since math.random can generate a random number between 0 and 1, we want to make sure that it's not 0. So what I'm going to do is add a +1 to all of our math.randoms to make sure that we are actually changing our health by some value. Now, it looks like it did not change right there. Oh, and that is because in our initial scenario, we're displaying the options. So what I'm going to do is add this same line of code to our game setup function. So the first time when this function is called, so we'll decrease the health on the first time, and then our second options will increase the health, make it equal, increase and decrease. So now if we hit run, Saturn looks like we added health, and then it decreased as we went on. So our recap for today, we ended up adding a paragraph tag for our player health in the HTML, added a player health, which will be changing as the game goes on, and then we added 2 more scenarios. Now, the main, as you guys can see, with an adventure game, the idea boils down to that there's a bunch of more options which can keep on coming about. Now, if we want to keep on doing this game, we can add tens of more options, but eventually it's your choice if you want to keep on bringing this game to an end. There could be a defined end, there could be an end which comes about based on different scenarios, and that comes down to an extension on this project which you can work on. Tejas also brought up a pretty cool idea, which I wish I knew about earlier. If we talked about earlier, we would have incorporated with our game if we had more time, but an idea which intertwines with an idea of a shop idea where the user can purchase things like health upgrades, maybe upgrades to their ship in order to help them out. All great ideas to make your game more complicated and add more functionality to the game as well. As always, guys, if you were not able to follow along, that is totally fine. We'll be dropping a link to this in our Google Classroom in today's update. So no worries, you can copy and paste the code. And next week, we'll be continuing to work on the CSS, finishing off with making our game look nice. But for today, guys, that brings us till the end for today's session. Hopefully, you guys are having a fun time with this project. And next week, we are approaching the final week of our Tech Bytes summer program. So come to all 3 sessions. We got Web Development Bell Day on Monday, MIT App and Mentor on Tuesday, and then our final day of working on this project and our final goodbyes on web product development next Wednesday. As always, guys, thank you guys for coming out, and we will see you guys for the last week next week. See you guys.
Bye.